Chapter 9. The Piscataway Experience. Piscataway Hunting Camp, where Piscataway Creek meets the mighty Potomac, Maryland Colony. An early morning in late spring, 1729. Well rested, William awakes to the sound of boys playing around the campsite. After spending the better part of a day with these remarkable strangers, he is intrigued and wants to learn more. Before rolling to his feet, he watches the boys chase each other in all their naked glory. One boy throws a spear in the air, only to have it shot out of the sky by another's arrow. With astonishment, he witnesses the boys repeat the feat again and again, most of them striking their mark with the same great precision, and it is a sight to behold. However, he notes the boys standing farther from their target are experiencing the opposite outcome, missing repeatedly, their arrows falling short of their mark. Upon closer observation, he sees their bows are not tightly strung, explaining why they were unable to hit their marks from any great distance. Turning his attention to the river, he spots Tatooine's red and blue painted face approaching from the shore. Rolling to his feet, he greets his host with a gracious smile and handshake. "Top of the morn, Chief!" While shaking, Tatooine places his free hand on William's arm and with a tilt of his head asks, "Top?" Shaking his head, the Irishman chuckles. "It's just how Irishmen like me say good morning." Then top of morn indeed," the chief replies with a Cheshire cat grin. And with a slap of his hand on William's shoulder, he says, "Today we go. Travel north. Take meat to village. William, come with." The young Irishman nods. "I'd be honored." The chief's eyes light up and he says, "Good. Tatooine curious. Want learn more about William tribe. Today, William tell him story, and Tatooine listen." With a nod, the chief shifts his attention to his people who are busily preparing for the long journey home. To reach their village, the group will have to travel a good many miles upriver to near Point of Rocks, which rests on the Maryland side of the Potomac. Although it will be a long trip, William can tell by the enthusiasm in camp the group is happy about returning home. For him, this new leg of his adventure came as a surprise, but one he too is excited about. An unexpected opportunity to see new places and learn more about these people who have so graciously welcomed him into their circle. After loading their meat, skins, and supplies onto pack horses, Tatooine leads his people and their new Irish friend north, he and William being the only two on horseback. And for the next 3 days and many, many miles they are inseparable, the days passing like minutes while talking about their lives, the land, and their plans for the future. For several hours, Tatooine talks about the preservation of his people and their heritage. In between his stories, William shares stories about his family, what Senior and his da taught him about their clan, life, and hunting. He also shares his dreams for the future, in particular, his dreams about Virginia and the untold opportunities that await him there. What William could not possibly know, however, is the path they are following through Maryland is the very same ground upon which his descendants will fight during the American Revolutionary and Civil Wars, an ironic twist in what will become a long and storied legacy. For 3 days, the group continues northward, stopping only for the occasional opportunity to add to their meat supply or camp for the night. In the evenings, they set up camp early enough to process and preserve the additional meat and furs, before bedding down for the night and heading out again early the next morning. On the evening of their second day, William lends a hand skinning and butchering an elk killed by one of the elders. On the third day now, William takes note of how much later in the day they are traveling. He taps Tatooine on the arm and points to the sky, saying, "We'll be running out of daylight soon. Should we maybe stop and set up camp?" The chief smiles and replies, "Worry not. We stop soon. You will see." Moments later, the group rides through a clearing emerging from the tree line at the edge of the Potomac. They are just a few hundred yards southwest of Point of Rocks. As William and the chief clear the trees, William sees a small tree-covered island in the middle of the river splitting the waters of the Potomac. As he looks on in awe, Tatooine eases his mount slowly into the clear, cool-flowing water, carefully leading William and his tribesmen across a shallow, rocky bed that stretches out to the island, known today as Heater's Island. As William and J.J. cross the swiftly flowing Potomac, he takes a good long look across the river and into Virginia, thinking to himself, the future isn't far away. Safely across the river, Tatooine leads them through a density of trees. As they emerge on the other side of the grove, they come into a clearing. No longer shrouded by trees, a secret world reveals itself. William cannot believe what he sees. Standing before them, for lack of a better description, is a small fortress, outside of which stand 10 huts surrounded by dozens of people going about their day. As the hunting party make their way into the dusk-lit clearing, the villagers rush to welcome home their tribesmen. At long last they are home. As Tatooine leads them into the fort, they are greeted like soldiers returning from war. Once inside, William is shocked by the size of the fort, noting its square shape of about 50 to 60 yards in each direction. Although with so many huts obstructing his view, it is difficult to be certain. For within the walls are no less than 20 more huts like those beyond the walls. Looking around, he guesses there to be a good 250 villagers, half men, half women, and roughly 50 children. Based on his previous observations, he is not surprised to find the children in the village with not so much as a stitch of clothing. This, despite the cool dusk air. With a closer look at their huts, he notes their oval shape and construction. They are wigwams consisting of poles covered with layers of mats and bark. The hunting party comes to a halt in the center of the village, where they find themselves surrounded by villagers welcoming them home. After greeting his beautiful wife and equally beautiful 3 young daughters, Tatooine turns to the people gathered and introduces their Irish guest. Almost immediately, women and children surround William, overwhelming him with offerings of warm greetings. Then, as quickly as they swarm him, they whisk he and J.J. away. While William is being swept away by women and children, Tatooine, the hunting party, and several villagers unload the pack horses. Quickly and efficiently, they stow their gear and the fruits of their labor. As each horse is unloaded, a tribesman leads it down to the river to be watered before being escorted to a small grove of trees where it is tied off, brushed, and fed. Meanwhile, across the village, surrounded by women and children, William and J.J. arrive at the front door of an oblong hut. One of the women is standing in front of the doorway gesturing for him to enter. When he hesitates, several of the children pull on his arm while the women nudge him forward. As he enters, his eyes scan the interior, light from a hole in the roof dimly illuminating the space. In the middle of the dirt floor, a small fire is burning, its smoke carried off through the roof and a small window on the wall to his left. While standing there in awe, 3 of the women gather some wood and stoke the fire. He is riding an endorphin high when he is snapped out of it by 3 elderly women doting over him like mothers, each attempting to ensure his comfort. One of them trying to clean his face with a damp cloth, while others attempt to remove his moccasins and hat. A little embarrassed, He thanks them profusely, but politely shoos them away while his boots and hat are still in place. To his surprise, one of the women addresses him in English. "You guest, this you home. You stay." Waving her hand over a spot near the fire, she says, "You sleep here." With his hands together like he is praying, William nods and bows. "Thank you. It is a fine home. Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll be most comfortable." With a smile, she nods and says, "Best way stay warm. Sleep near fire, away from door." William nods and the mob exits, leaving him standing there alone. With the crowd dissipated, he removes his hat and looks around, checking out his new temporary home. Unslinging his bedroll, he lays out his bed and stows his gear, then heads outside to take JJ down to the river. He is brushing JJ with a handful of straw when Tatooine comes walking up. "You like home?" "Aye, it's very nice, thank you." "Good. Me like you like. You my guest. If you need, you tell," the chief says, patting his chest. "Thank you, but for now, I think I have all I need." Tatooine smiles. "All but food. Our women have prepared feast. Come, we eat and celebrate." William ties off JJ in the grove of trees with the other horses and follows the chief to the hub of the village. It is a huge open area at the center of which burns a majestic fire. William is astounded by the size of the gathering and how quickly they brought everything together. It is a celebration, and the entire village is sitting 3 deep in a massive circle, talking and eating around the crackling bonfire. They are laughing and smiling, feasting on freshly roasted venison, squash, beans, and flatbreads. As he stands there taking in the scene, a woman walks up, handing him and Tatooine a bowl of food. As she walks away, the chief gets everyone's attention. Walking to the center of the ring, he addresses his people in their native tongue. William cops a squat and listens as he eats. "Two young warriors of hunt, be proud. You come, you learn, and now we eat." His people yelp and cheer. "It good hunt. We bring much meat and many pelt, and our new friend, William," he says, gesturing in the young Irishman's direction. Then, with a thrust of a fist in the air, he shouts, "To the hunt!" With pride and enthusiasm, the villagers cheer, and the celebration carries on. It is a clear, star-filled sky, and William watches as sparks from the blaze ascend to the heavens to dance among the stars. As the party eases into the evening, some of the villagers begin dancing about, while those from the hunting party, like William, are exhausted and ready to call it an evening, their huts calling them home to rest. So, as the party starts to thin, William sees an opportunity to quietly return to his lodge and get some much-needed shut-eye. By the light of the moon, he strolls through the fort's village. Small fires are burning in each of the huts, and he peers curiously into their open doorways as he passes. To his surprise, he finds that most of them contain several people sleeping communally on the ground, each packed with villagers huddled around a fire at the center of the structure, the exception being Tatooine's hut. As chief, he has a private hut for just his family. As he passes by, he peeks into his doorway and spies a bed about 6 feet from the fire pit. It looks to be made of 4 posts driven into the ground, with an arrangement of poles placed above them horizontally, the top of which is covered with a thick stack of furs. Apparently, being chief has its privileges. A few huts later, he arrives at his and beds down for the night. Piscataway Island Village, Potomac River, near Point of Rocks, Maryland colony. Dawn the following morning. Early summer, 1729. William steps from his hut into the cool morning air, adjusting his hat. Several villagers are already out and about. Some are headed out the fort's front gate, so he follows to see what they are doing. Strolling through the gates, he beholds a light fog lazily drifting atop the Potomac, blanketing the northern tip of the island. As he heads down to the water to wash up, he is surprised to see several tribal women already up and about. They are gathered in groups, making pottery in baskets, gossiping and laughing as they work. He is equally surprised when he spots several men working as well. They are downriver at the water's edge, skillfully carving dugout canoes. Splashing some icy water on his face, he watches them while he washes up. With a clean face, he pulls back his hair, returning the hat to his head. Re-entering the fort, he strolls through the village, gazing with wonder at the world these people have created. On the other side of the fort, he finds another gateway leading out to the heart of the island, through which he spies a large, wide-open clearing, blanketed with a massive, thriving garden, like a small farm. Its beauty so robust he simply must have a closer look. In awe, he strolls the perimeter, looking at what they have grown and how. In all his years of farming, he has never seen anything so impressive. Walking along, he comes upon a small dike and a series of narrow ditches feeding water to the planting beds. This he finds to be especially impressive. It is a well-devised system by which water from the river is diverted by way of the dike to irrigate the crops. It is truly brilliant. Gazing over the plush, hardy greenness, he notices throughout the garden what appear to be mounds. Numerous mounds from which 2 or 3 cornstalks spring. Bean vines around their base are flourishing, climbing the length of the cornstalks, with bean pods growing in abundance, dangling in the morning breeze. The area between the mounds is cleverly planted, with an abundance of squash and pumpkin vines. A wealth of giant, dark green leaves fill the space, creating a magnificent sea of greenness, softly dancing in the fog on the light morning breeze. Gazing upon the stunning display, he notices they are also growing tobacco in the far corner of the garden. He whispers to himself, "Impressive!" Kneeling, he rakes his hands over the rich, fertile soil, then scoops up a handful, slowly running it through his fingers as he gazes upon the impressive display. Closing his eyes, he fills his lungs with the crisp, clean air. Slowly letting it out, he opens his eyes, admiring what these people have created. The garden is plush, green, and hardy, with an abundance of healthy fruits, vegetables, and foliage, and it is truly beautiful. He whispers, "If I didn't know any better, I'd swear I'm in heaven." Just then, Tatooine comes up behind him as if speaking to an old friend, saying, "William, is it not beautiful?" William turns, greeting him with a handshake. "Tatooine, these crops are impressive. How are you able to grow so abundantly?" The chief smiles. "Come, me show." Tatooine guides him to an area on the far side of the garden where several women are hard at work. Tatooine addresses one of them in their native tongue. She replies, and Tatooine points. William watches her walk over and kneel beside a basket. Beside it are what appear to be a grinding stone and several stacked bowls. Tatooine waves for him to come closer. Together, they watch as she reaches into the basket, removing a dried fish head. Placing the head on the grinding stone, she picks up a large rock and begins grinding the bones into powder. William notices a small clay pot next to her filled with seeds. He had noticed during the previous night's feast they store their food in these clay pots as well. Once ground to her satisfaction, the woman picks up the bowl of bone meal and walks over to a squash plant. There, She sprinkles the bone meal around its base and works it into the soil with her fingers. The woman looks at William with a smile and speaks in her native tongue. Tatooine translates. She say, death give life. William acknowledges the woman with a smile and kneels beside her, watching like a child as she works the ground substance into the soil. He reaches down, taking another handful of the rich soil and brings it to his nose. The soil is dark and rich with nutrients, and by its texture he can tell it is well aerated. Making a mental note, he returns the soil to the ground and stands. Tatooine nods. Good, yes? Aye, real good. The chief smiles. Come, show more. William waves goodbye to the woman, thanking her for sharing. Tatooine translates, and the two men tour the village. The chief shows his guest how the women make pottery in baskets. Then he walks him down to the water to where he had seen the men carving canoes earlier that morning. Only now, he gets to watch up close as they skillfully craft the canoes into sturdy, well-balanced vessels. Tatooine explains how the vessels are essential to the tribe's success for fishing and transporting goods up and down river for trade. Following his lesson in canoe building, William follows Tatooine to an area along the island's southern edge. There, the waters of the Potomac sweep around the island, delivering throngs of fish into nets cast by tribesmen. The shore, lined with baskets, overflowing with fish. Sitting with the baskets are women busily processing the catch. He watches as they clean and prepare the fish for smoking. After cleaning them, they split each fish down the middle from where their heads have been removed to just short of their tail fins, after which they sling them over sticks and cast them over a low-burning fire. As each rack is filled, they are covered and smoked for future consumption. The remaining fish heads and bones are then washed and tossed into baskets. As William had observed in the garden, they will be dry baked in the sun to be used later as fertilizer. After helping the tribal fishermen haul in a few nets and load the catch into baskets, the two men follow the shoreline back to the fort. Tatooine walks them over to an area where skins and furs are being tanned and processed. As he looks on, he takes note of two women in particular, both displaying skills rivaling his uncle's. They are fashioning what are clearly winter adornments, one of them sewing a long, furry robe and the other an Ashunka-like fur cap, while several younger women and girls appear to be making blankets and throw rugs, like the ones he spied on Tatooine's bed. Curious, William continues watching as the women joyfully go about their work, talking and laughing as they do. William is impressed and captivated by all he has seen of these people and their lifestyle, especially with how productive they are as a community. Every member of the tribe has a job, each of them an integral part of the tribe's success and long-term survival. These people are nothing short of impressive, and on a human level, moving and inspirational. Even the boys who, to the casual observer, appear to be playing, are in fact honing their skills with their bows and arrows. When not playing with their arrows and spears, they are learning important skills from their elders, skills certain to serve the tribe as they move into the future. Clearly, there is far more to these Piscataway than most white people understand or think they know about them. They are an intelligent, hard-working, and kind people, happy and proud of their traditions and way of life. Not to mention, they make him feel at home among them. As the weeks pass, William's appreciation for the Piscataway does not go unnoticed, his actions showing he is all in, always lending a hand with one task or another, or learning their language and their ways, and contributing every day to the tribal mission of preparing for the coming cold. He appreciates all these people have done and continue to do for him. More than anything, he wants them to know it. Over the course of his first 4 weeks living among them, Tatooine takes note of William's attitude and contributions and welcomes him to stay as long as he wishes. And why not? After all, their relationship is anything but one-sided. With William's spirit and enthusiasm, his contributions continue to benefit Tatooine and his people, while enabling Tatooine to learn more about the white man and his ways. As for William, life is good here. He is living comfortably and with purpose, among new friends and people he trusts, all while learning firsthand about the Piscataway people and the skills they use to survive in the wilderness. He is learning their Algonquin language and customs while making friends and building relationships. William feels at peace here. So much, in fact, a part of him feels he could stay forever, save the visions of Virginia calling him from across the river every day. Although he knows he can stay with his Piscataway friends, if he does, he will never be truly satisfied. No, until the opportunities and rewards he is certain await him in Virginia are unveiled, his quest will not be complete. Without question, meeting and getting to know these people has been a blessing, but he knows his time here is fleeting. South of the Piscataway Island village, along the shores of the mighty Potomac, Maryland colony, early afternoon on a late summer's day, 1729. It is a sweltering hot day, so Tatooine is riding in the shade of the trees as he guides William along the edge of the Potomac, touring the tribe's territory. As usual, they are deep in conversation when they come upon a narrow area and have to proceed one at a time. With Tatooine taking the point, William lays back waiting, then follows a few feet behind as they traverse the meager strip. Just then, a pair of black bear cubs run playfully into the water from the tree line a good 30 yards downriver. Giving them a wide berth, Tatooine stops at the river's edge. Following his lead, William does the same just a few feet behind. As they come to a halt, a bone-chilling roar erupts from the tree line to their right. Before either man can react, the blood-curdling bellow emerges in the form of an angry mother bear, furiously bolting from the tree line full stride. At a glance, she looks to be 7 feet tall from nose to toes and easily 350 pounds. With overwhelming force, she viciously charges into Tatooine's horse, striking its side with its front paws spread wide, tackling it. Her long, sharp, curved claws digging into the mount's flesh as they fall. The violent impact knocking the chief into the river as his mount and the bear crash into the water at the river's edge. When the angry beast blazed from the tree line, J.J. reared up, nearly throwing William from his mount. Somehow he managed to hold on until J.J. returns to all fours. When his hooves hit the ground, William swings Martha from his back and draws down on the beast. He cannot see Tatooine. What he can see is the bear unleashing holy hell on his friend's horse, which now lay on its side, half submerged in the river. William cocks, aims, and fires. With a crack, the ball explodes from the barrel, striking the beast's neck at the base of its skull. No reaction. Dropping Martha, he pulls Senior's knife, swings his right leg over JJ's head, and jumps to the ground. Landing hard, he quickly recovers, bursting out of his crouch and springing forward with 2 swift strides atop a grand boulder at the river's edge. With his third, he leaps through the air, taking flight. Landing high on the raging bear's back, he wraps his legs about her, riding her like a bucking mustang. A fistful of neck fur in his left hand, and Senior's knife plunging deep into her neck with his right. The angry beast arches its back, swinging her head from left to right, snapping, roaring, and waving her arms. William holds on to her bloodied neck fur with all that he is, ducking and dodging the swipes of her massive claws, riding her like an angry bull. He thrusts the length of his blade repeatedly and violently into the beast's neck, holding on for dear life and screaming like a crazed warrior. In an act of sheer desperation, he continues to stab the beast about its neck and throat, praying she will die before he runs out of strength. Relentlessly, he stabs away, huffing and growling in a rage. Covered with blood, he and the beast fall from atop the horse and into the water. With all his strength and body weight, William forces the beast's head under the water, while continuing to scramble her innards, twisting his deeply buried blade. Then he hears it, shouting as if from another dimension. Dripping with blood and soaked to the bone, he snaps to his senses. Breathing heavily, he looks up to find Tatooine standing waist-deep in the river a few yards away. He is drenched and standing uneasily in the water, waving his arms and shouting. William can see his mouth moving, but cannot hear what he's saying. With his heart pumping violently, he catches his breath and focuses. "William! It is done! It is done!" the chief shouts, grateful to be alive. William, who is still clenching the beast by a fistful of fur at the base of its now lifeless neck, lets out a sigh. Breathing exhaustively, he stands wearily assessing the scene. Finally getting his wind, he looks down at the huge beast and kicks it in the water where it rests. Adrenaline still coursing through his veins, he peers at Tatooine's horse laying motionless in the water, its limp body slowly drifting into the current. Bleeding profusely from its jugular groove and thigh, it had taken its final breath. Still clenching his knife, William pulls it from the bear's neck and wipes it on her fur. Chest still heaving, he shouts, "Are you okay? Are you wounded?" Half joking, Tatooine peers at the dead bear at William's feet and his horse slowly floating downstream. "I am good. Much better than bear and horse. How are you, my friend? You look like shite," William says, looking down at himself and laughing. "More like victorious warrior," Tatooine retorts. Looking skyward, William spreads his arms wide and lets out a robust shout. "To the Brotherhood of Warrior Hunters!" His proclamation so loud, he spooks the two motherless cubs back into the tree line and out of sight. Turning his eyes to Tatooine, he says, "I'm good. Exhausted, but good." Tatooine laughs and sloshes over to his faithful friend. They fall together in an exhausted brotherly embrace, thankful to be alive. As they release from their man-hug, they stand there for a moment, each with their hands on the other's shoulders, as if helping the other to remain standing. Exhausted and soaked, they look at each other and break into laughter, their tensions melting away with each hearty hoot. Their laughter quickly fading, however, when it occurs to them they still have a dead bear to deal with. With a slap of the chief's arm, William breathes, "What do you say we get this sow to shore?" Tatooine nods, and they take a hold of the heavy, lifeless carcass and exhaustively drag her farther onto the bank. There they gut her, leaving her innards to the fish. Then, to haul the beast back to the village, they build a travois, strapping it to JJ's back. Exhausted and wet, they load the bear and make their way back to the village. A short while later, tribal members halt their actions and follow them into the fort to see the massive bear. Piscataway Island Village, Potomac River, near Point of Rocks, Maryland Colony. Later that evening, a late summer's day, 1729. Gathered around the bonfire, villagers listen as Tatooine weaves the tale of his Irish friend's warrior-like heroism. Acting out the scenes for all to see, he tells of how William shot the mighty beast before leaping onto its back. Jumping from side to side, he shares how William rode the angry creature while stabbing at its neck, and how with nothing more than a warrior's courage and a hunting knife, he killed the massive bear and saved his life. Upon hearing the story, the villagers cheer, heralding their white brother as a courageous warrior, chanting, "Makwa, Makwa, Makwa, Makwa." While saving his friend's life was simply the right thing to do, William's actions that day elevate him to a place of honor among the tribe. What started out as a simple ride along the Potomac transformed him into a hero and, more importantly, a brother among the Piscataway. William stays with his Piscataway family for several more weeks, but the summer is winding down and fall is in the air, with winter waiting in the wings. Like his Piscataway brothers, William feels the change in the air and knows his time to move on fast approaches. Tatooine senses it as well and knows their time together is nearing its end. So that afternoon when his Irish friend told him he would be leaving in the morning, he never questioned it. However, he was not going to let William move on without first showing him his gratitude. On that their last night together, Tatooine and his people host a huge feast in his honor. For William, the party affords him time to thank everyone he has come to know and tell them all goodbye. Most importantly, it is an opportunity for the Piscataway people and William to enjoy each other's company one last time. Throughout the night, they share stories and laughter, celebrating their friendship and time shared. One of the women teasing him for constantly mixing up words when first learning their language. Considering everyone had experienced that with him, the entire group breaks into a hearty laugh, William included. As always, the celebration is held in the village hub, with a roaring bonfire lighting the night. Closing his eyes, William hears his friends' voices, the crackle and pop of the fire, and the soft roar of the Potomac. The aroma of smoke, food, and the essence of raw fish tickling his nose. When he opens his eyes, the fire is burning so brightly, all the faces he has come to know are perfectly illuminated. As his eyes scan the ring of people around him, he smiles inside for all of the memories he has made with them. They are talking and eating when Tatooine stands. With arms spread wide, he captures everyone's attention. With all eyes fixed on him, they quietly listen as he begins to speak, first in Algonquin, and then in his broken but understandable English. At place of old village, where Piscataway Creek meet great river, I turned and saw young warrior, alone, with no tribe. In him eyes a peaceful strength, in him eyes me think, him no enemy, him friend. And with time, him show this to be true. With time, him become more than friend, him become Tatooine brother. With time, him become Piscataway brother. The villagers cheer at their chief's words. Now come time, young warrior must go, find him way. This make Tatooine sad and happy. While a low rumble makes its way around the circle, Tatooine gestures to his wife, Akamawi, or River Swan. Moments later, she carries forward a gift which she proudly holds while standing beside her husband. In her arms is the massive fur of the bear he slayed. Holding it out, she unfolds it, letting it unfurl to the ground. Oohs and ahs rise up from the circle when they see what she has fashioned. It is a magnificent, full-length winter coat, with the bear's front arms as sleeves. It is truly magnificent. Tatooine calls William forward. William, young warrior, young brother, as you journey into wilderness, know you forever have home with Piscataway. As the villagers cheer, he takes the massive coat and with help from his wife, holds it up for William to slip into. After adjusting it, he spreads his arms wide for all to see, and the villagers cheer some more. Now, Piscataway with William, always. May Piscataway keep him warm when cold winds blow. William in Piscataway heart, and Piscataway in William heart. William smiles and with tears welling embraces his friend, wrapping him in his furry bear-skinned arms. They slap each other affectionately on the back, then separate. Then William turns to the villagers. With the beautiful coat on his back, he bows with gestures of love and appreciation as they cheer. Their cheering once again morphing into a chant. Makwa, 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 Makwa. Having learned of their customs and language, William understands the chanting is a unified declaration of his tribal name, Makwa, or Black Bear. Raising his hands, he quiets the crowd. Flattered but embarrassed, he smiles and with hand over heart addresses the tribe in his best Algonquin. "Me friends, me brothers and sisters, thank you." Firmly gripping the coat's lapel, he adds, This I will carry all of me days. It will guard me from the cold and keep the Piscataway warm in me heart." Slowly walking around the bonfire, he gazes upon their many faces, pointing, smiling, and on occasion exchanging a chuckle. With his arms extended palm down, he makes a sweeping motion from right to left over the crowd and says, "And I will carry with me all you have taught me, and all the memories, every conversation, every smile, every laugh, the life lessons and love." Firmly patting his hand upon his heart, he adds, "Your love." Although his Algonquin is broken, the villagers understand full well his heartfelt message. With grateful hearts they chant, "Makwa, Makwa." Northern tip of Piscataway Island Village, where the island splits the waters of the mighty Potomac, Maryland colony. Dawn on a late summer's day, 1729. The following morning, William steps from his hut one last time, a misty fog greeting him as he steps outside. Bearskin and bedroll on his back and Martha in hand, he takes one last look around at the small fort he has called home for the last several months. Just then, Tatooine and River Swan walk up. They have come to see him off, bringing with them deerskin sacks filled with jerky, dried fish, and cornmeal for his long journey. Together, the threesome walk over to JJ and William throws the blanket over his back before loading his supplies. Before climbing aboard, he turns and Tatooine places a hand on his shoulder one last time, giving him a firm squeeze. William pauses, and while no words are exchanged, their expressions say all that needs to be said. Then he turns, mounts JJ, and slowly exits the fort as the villagers wave goodbye. As JJ strolls towards the gates of the fort, the villagers chant, "Makwa, Makwa, Makwa." Through the gates and exterior village, past the trees and westward across the waters of the Potomac he rides. Only this time he will not be coming back. As he reaches the shore on the other side, he stops JJ at the water's edge. With a deep breath, he looks around, almost in disbelief that he is finally in Virginia, and that the next chapter of his adventure is just beginning. He looks back, and when his eyes behold, is Tatooine standing tall, strong, and proud at the water's edge, surrounded by his people. The scene, just as it had been on the day they met, only this time they are waving goodbye. William smiles and waves, and with a double tap of his fist to his heart, slowly turns and rides away.